Welcome, Walter. If you would state your name and where you were born and who your parents were, you can start off that way.
I'm Walter Kane, and was born in Surry, down on Newbury Neck at the, not the new little house at the time was my father and mother's up above the farm in 1935. And my parents were Henry and Emma Kane. Of course, my grandparents was down in the other farmhouse, and the great-grandparents had been in the farmhouse. So this was just a little piece of land that they had given them to put a house on. And
So,
I was
right next-
born right in that house. It was just a situation where my mother gave birth when fairly quick, and so I was born right in that house.
Great.
Of course, old Dr. Clark showed up afterwards, but he was a great old doctor, and he used to be all our family doctor.
Tell us about the needle salesman.
The needle salesman was Brainerd Condon. He was from Brooklyn, and he used to call all around the area. He had like a suitcase, and he lugged all the time, and it was full of needles and thread and all kinds of little knickknacks. Many items in there, but all I remember is just the needles and thread that he had. And he was coming across the ice. We used to see him. I found out later he'd been over to Howard Young's. He used to sell him some of these knickknacks. And then when he got done there, he'd come across to Newbury Neck on the ice. And he would go to our place, my grandmother's place, and everybody around the whole neighborhood. And he'd keep ending up down. Eventually he'd get back to Brooklyn, but it might be several days before he'd get back. Well, I remember the one time in particular that he came across the ice, and he came up and he came in the house, and he said, my mother had just made a plum pie, a prune pie, and she said, Brainerd smells pie. Oh, she said, that's great. Well, what had happened was the town had a lot of surplus food come in, and Jack Rowling was the selectman at the time, filled his car right full of these prunes and peanut butter, there was two or three items. And he went around, any family that he thought could use it, he'd give it to them. Well, we'd eaten prunes, and of course you know what prunes do to you, they help your bowels a lot. And so we'd eaten so many that we didn't even want to see any prunes. Well, Brainerd said he smelled pie, and she said, oh, this is great, Brainerd, I just finished the pie. Well, he started eating that pie, and he ate the whole pie.
Oh.
And then we got a tremendous kick out of that, because thinking about Brainerd on the road after he'd had eaten all that prunes. So it was quite exciting.
Good.
Yeah.
So he walked across the ice, or did he drive his car across the ice?
He walked all the time.
Walked all.
He never, it wasn't, we didn't have any cars then to mount anything,
Sure.
This would have been probably late 30s or early 40s, I never saw vehicles on the saltwater ice, but there used to be a lot of ice boating back then. My father had one that he'd made, and then Clarence Jordan had, down the road, had a big one that was in that building when he sold it. And they said they'd go up and down the bay at 80, 90 miles an hour with those ice boats. Of course, my sister and I used to have a lot of fun. Once they got all froze over, good and solid, my parents would let us get down on the bay. But there was a lot of snow then, and there'd been some rain on top of the snow, and it had made a crust. And we'd get on up down to the farm, get up on the hill there, and on our sleds, have our skates on, get on the sleds, slide all the way down out onto the ice while we would stop. Then we would skate. We liked my sister decided she wanted to go faster, so we'd open up our coats, and the wind would take you, and boy, would you go up and down that coat. Then when you wanted to go back, you had to shut your coats, because you were going up against the wind. Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, it was. You know, we'd get down there for 2 or 3 hours and skate, have a great time.
So, you tell us about Alva Leach.
Alva Leach, you were out to Toddy Pond. You come out to where Bill Buzzell lived, and just beyond that was Mrs. Leach. I don't remember her first name, but she was an elderly lady, but that was Alva's wife. And they had 6 or 7 children, and then Alva departed, and he just drifted around. He'd stay. He had usually a camp somewhere out on Toddy Pond that he would live in, and then during the winter he would go stay one place 2 or 3 weeks, and then he'd go to somebody else. Well, invariably he would end up down to our house. Well, my father never told anybody they couldn't stay there. I don't know why, but he should have. Anyways, Alva would wait till we'd all gone to bed. Then he would go down cellar and find a raspberries, which my mother had worked very hard to get and can in the summer for us, so we'd have berries in the winter. Well, he'd eat these raspberries up, when she'd come up, she'd find the empty jar. Well, that went on for a period of time, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then she still kept finding them. Then she stood up and said to Dad, "He's got to go." And before night he was gone. I don't know what happened, but he was gone.
Well, first, I'm Stanley Francis Richmond. I was named for a Polish couple. They were friends of my father and mother, so I'm Stanley Francis in 1936. Then I sort of set it up starting out with my mother. My mother was Marion Gertrude Gasper. She was born in '07. She was an only child, which kind of explains some of my behavior of growing up by myself all the time. And she lived next to the Baptist church over in town. I think it was the house that was just to the east of. And then later she was out at the house that's next to Ken Torrey's, which you refer to as the other one, not familiar. And as I was telling you, that my grandfather, who was a ship captain, used to run his signal flags up the flagpole. And back when I was little, we had 4 elm trees on the front lawn and he would get out the whole alphabet, plus 2 or 3 American flags, and some of them didn't have that many stars. They were back into the Mexican War period, and we would run those all up. So it was always a festivity to put the flags up. So that house always is kind of special to me relative to where they lived. My grandfather was born up on the North Bend Road in Alan Gasper's house, up on the hill there. They used to have a boarding room in the house, and they had a blacksmith's little building with all the equipment. But when he was growing up, there was an old clock that they threw out, and grandfather went out and got it and brought it home, and it's what we call the banger. It's a one-day clock, and when it sounds off, it's just fun to listen to. But he retrieved something back from the dump, which kind of explains some of my heritage that I suffer from. And that's also the house that was Manfred Gasper's, that Alan, I think, acquired later on. The Gaspers, as I grew up, supposedly came to this country because one of them was incarcerated over in Portugal. And it really wasn't Portugal, but we thought it was Portugal. And a U.S. frigate came into the harbor area, and it was low tide, and the ones that were incarcerated all broke for the ship, and only 3 of them got across the clam flats, and one of them was great-grandfather, and he always walked kind of bad because of the clamshells that he cut up his feet so badly in order to get his freedom. But that's how we got into this country. I guess we could say we might have been illegal immigrants. I'm not sure. We entertained ourselves and found things to do. And then a boat would drift in that was leaky, so we'd caulk it, still would leak. I can remember stuffing oakum into the seams of the rowboat, stuffed it, oh boy, she's gonna be dry. My grandfather came home, oh my God, when that starts to swell. And sure enough, the boards just warped something fierce. Didn't know any better. You learn by experience different things. We had sleds and toys and things of our grandparents, and we would use those and just go and have a good time doing it. Things.
Who was your teacher at the village school?
When I came back, it was Rena Bonzi. She was a little bit on the nervous side, very good, very helpful. And I used to spend an awful lot of time, kids would take off and go play. I used to spend a lot of time just bugging the living daylights out of her. I was used to, like Mother being an only child, used to adults a little bit easier. And so it was more comfortable being in her presence.
And you were an only child?
No,
No, okay.
but I behaved like one to some extent. I didn't have, you don't count sisters, but but again, you're on your own, type of thing. I've just lost my train of thought. Okay, Rena. Charlie Crockett was related to her. Anyway, then that was downstairs. It was during the war years and the blackboards. So when we had our work done, we could go to the blackboard and draw. We would draw planes, and planes would be attacking ships. And then that shark was pounding on the, it made poor Rena, that's probably why she was nervous, sitting there and shooting all of it. But again, it was wartime. That now, jump a little bit. Mother, when she went to school, which would have been World War I, her little pencil box is military,
Wow.
so they're still
Can
doing
you
that.
hold it up so?
Oh. And then there's two pencils that are unused in here. One's Ellsworth Builder Supply, and I think that may be from around the corner, Rattle Off. And this is a pencil I use in taking an electronic quiz nationally that didn't go well. It should have been like this one. And this one, I believe, would have been Mother's, that she just sort of kept.
Now, did she go to the North Bend school, or did she go to the village school as well?
She went to village. My grandfather, my mother, and I all went to the same school.
Yeah.
To my grandmother Gray was a school teacher, I think, in East Surry, the little school where the Crestons just lived. I've got a ink bottle from there, you know, part of a desk. But no, everybody went to Surry.
The village school.
This is the Ellsworth basketball schedule that they
Oh
used to
my
print
goodness.
on the pencils. Donnie Mason was the star at that time. But anyway, there's a significance of war connected with different time. From downstairs, school, well, when you had to go, we had the outside corridor with windows, so that was relatively pleasant. I always felt bad for the girls that had two walls going to the outhouse, you know, not a pleasant thing. And I was mentioning to Audrey that water, we used to have to take newspaper, which were the small sheets, fold them up, make a pyramid, fold it over, go up and get a drink. And you couldn't spend too much time there. She'd go through type thing. But I never could figure out where the water came from. I don't remember seeing anybody ever put anything in it. And I'm assuming it came out of the brook. We used to build buildings by taking boughs off trees and things up in the up above the old firehouse. Those are just things. Have you got Bob Stevens' book on his life?
Yes.
Anyway, when lunchtime would come, and I had my grandfather's old lunchbox, little curved edge, we'd take out about 2 or 3 thermoses a year. That wasn't hard, break those. Mother didn't really like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And
My favorite.
well, that's all I eat now. But she would make up things. It'd be peanuts stuck in this and that, and kids would watch me eat just to see what the devil was in there. So when lunchtime would come, we'd all break for the rock that was over on the first base line. It was a big rock, kind of on an angle. See who could get it first to have something to sit on. The others had to sit on the grass. And we'd sit there to eat our lunch. And Bob and Tom Stevens would be standing there with a paper bag or something. Never knew until he wrote that book. He didn't have a lunch. Didn't have a lunch. And he was too proud to take anything. He would take Tom and go off on the backside and disappear until the lunch hour was over. Yeah, just things you wouldn't allow if you could only
You only
been
knew.
aware of, type of thing. So how far am I going astray?
Well,
Okay.
Do
we've
you
got-
remember any of your classmates?
Yeah,
There was Ken Torrey, was he a classmate?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna bring the picture, but, Jane, Mildred, and Renee, can't remember her last name, lived up on the North Bend Road later on. Jackie Smith, David Stevens, Ken, myself, Roland McAlpine. Roland McAlpine, one day somebody from welfare showed up and had a box and gave it to him. And he had a jackknife in there and something else. He'd been taken over by the state, and his possessions that they had come in contact with, they brought to him. That's all he had. You know, another one of those, to us, they were marvelous things, but it was just, no, they're all classmates. So we get upstairs, and we had Myra Billington. And Myra was living out her career, very prim and proper. Oh, there was a substitute teacher by the name of Cousins. Don't remember her first name. Little itty bitty 90-pounder. But unfortunately, she had a heavy foot. And she kept getting picked up for speeding, going back to Blue Hill. And for us, that was just fantastic. How did that little woman get that car going so fast? And she, no apology, she said, well, you want to go home? And she would go. Boom! But Myra was awfully good. We had, dissertations, different things. She would tell us about First World War, where somebody in town didn't really want to talk about it. And she said the reason was he was marching up to combat 3 abreast, and 2 of his friends were shot on both sides, and they still had to go, and they couldn't stop and help him. Those are stories that we used to hear from somebody. And then she told about the fellow that was crippled, and he had a .22 single shot gun, and he wanted to hunt bear. And somehow he got out in the woods. He got a bear to come to him, and he fell out of his wheelchair, and the bear came around the tree, and he nailed him with 1 shot. I know. Those are just stories that Myra had for us. I'm sorry. But the wonderful thing about the 2-room schoolhouse,
Sorry.
is that if you were behind, you could catch up, or if you had spare time, you could learn ahead.
Did you end up helping other students?
Not really, not that I know. I don't recall. I helped out people that had problems. Because I was, we were isolated a little bit, but I'd be helpful that way. My sister was always protective of people, and there's a lot of crap going on. Yeah, kids. But never thought about it. You just try to be, we didn't know any better. I mean, you just should be good. And that's where, coming from an isolated situation, you don't know what's bad.
Yes.
Type of thing, naive. That's why I'm saying that school for me was a socialization. I just did not have skills how to play with kids. But I was forgetting about Myra. But school, Surry and Ellsworth, Jane, Mildred, and I would go into high school, and we would do much better than the Ellsworth kids, who were brighter than we were probably, because they were bored, because they were doing this junior speaking in grammar school. Things were always sort of common to them, And to us, it was all new, and we would, strive to succeed so that outside schools, I felt, had a leg up. I've lost the thought of the other one. No. Two-room to me, let me jump to Pauline McDevitt. She was my 7th and 8th grade teacher, and she was, her husband was a classmate of my father and mother's. So here I've got parents, friend, classmate, got to behave twice as much as I normally would. Jackie Smith had trouble reading, and so Pauline tried to help him. I don't know if you know Pauline.
No.
Probably not. Pauline McDevitt?
My brother and sister had her as a teacher. She had red hair.
I don't know what
No.
hair was.
Okay.
Anyway, she was well endowed, and she would have Jackie come in to do some reading to catch up. And she would wear braless, low-cut dresses, send the kids out at noontime, and they would sit there and read. And I don't think Jackie never would be able to learn to read by being distracted all the time. Anyway, she was an excellent teacher outside of that. History isn't the past. History is basically the present. And the minute the present becomes past, it needs to be recorded. If it isn't recorded, it's not going to be history.
Hi, I'm Dana Worcester, originally from Columbia Falls. I moved up this way 2010, I think, in that area. Love it up here. Surry's great. I love Surry. It's Columbia Falls used to be like this, nice little town, kept all the lawns clean and turned into, I don't know if you've ever been down there, it was kind of depressing down there now. It's just a shame. But so, love the little town and love the people here, and everyone's so nice. Everyone's just been great. And I found this little house, and luckily I found this little house. It was just by chance. And about 5 or 6 years ago, I guess. And knew the potential the place had. It was just a blank slate when I started, and knew pretty much what I was going to do right after I bought it. I knew the design that I had built this design before in Columbia Falls, and
Well, I wanted to comment that in driving by the road, I of course noticed your house as it's been developing, as you're building it. And it occurred to me that it always reminded me of three things: the Great Pyramid in Egypt, the Sydney Opera House, and perhaps a pagoda. But a perfect blend of all of those sort of features. And so I was curious about how the design evolved. It's strictly your design,
yes,
I understand.
as far as I know, I'm the only one that's ever designed this. But I've worked on literally, I've done this since high school, since 1991, and I've worked on probably 500 homes. And you get a little piece of every home, you can add in, build quite a Rolodex of ideas and stuff after a while, and just combine them all into one thing, and plus, you know, being a little bit artistic and creative and have a little bit of ambition helps a little bit.
Lots of ambition in your case.
And this is what you come up with.
So you built this around a core of the old house.
That's right.
I understand.
Yep. I had two ideas. I was either going to build the house right here next to my garage, and then take the house, and I was going to try to give the house to a family that was in need of a home. You know, they just had to pay to have it moved, and they could take the house, but the foundation was so nice. The basement was so nice, I just couldn't, you know, I had to leave and build off from that. And it probably would have been less work to build the house next to my garage brand new, but it was fun to save the old place, and I love to do that anyways, you know, save the old stuff when you can.
And I understand the lumber was locally sourced?
Yes, that came from the end of Newbury Neck. Hubert,
Huber Estate?
yep. Blaine Davis, he's the caretaker down there, very good friend. All the blow down logs, the spruce that he collects over the year, he puts in a pile and sells them off, and I buy them off him. It's all just, you know, beautiful spruce, never been cut, just all, you know, most pretty stuff you could ever put through a sawmill. And that's the result. And the only thing I bought is the plywood, but all the framing and everything else I sawed and made myself. My cat.
And I noticed that you also have one or two other buildings on the property that mirror this design.
That's right. It's just such a design that makes so much sense. It's hard for me not to use it. I'm even going to build my chicken coop this style.
Oh,
I've even got that. It's kind of like standing up over there. I didn't show you that yet, but we can go through that. And that's the platform for it down there. So it's going to be it'll be quite a little place, I guess, with all the picket roofs.
yeah, it'll be
Picket
its
roofs
own
and
little
porches.
village. Let's think what else you...
So a friend of mine, I see him down at the Surry store pretty much every morning. He was asking me about all these slabs, the wood slabs that I cut all the lumber from. If he could have some, you know, firewood, and, you know, they're all free for the taking. Whoever would want to take it all would be great. So he come and took a bunch. And then I was here working around the yard over here. He shows up one day with this weather vane for me as a gift. He used to build cupolas and weather vanes in Trenton. And he happened to have that extra stock or something. So he dropped that off to me in trade for the wood slabs.
And that's going on the top of your
Yes,
house.
yep, that's Vincent Esposito.
And what is this? And what is your job? What do you do?
I do siding, exterior, interior. I build homes. Right now I'm working for Surry Village Homes, and we're putting a big place together in Brooklyn. We'll be there probably another month or so. And then one of our next jobs is right across the road here from me.
Joy Smalls.
Joy Smalls place,
right.
So, plenty of work. And I got my own siding jobs to do. I got one in Ellsworth I've got to get done too somewhere along the way. So this here behind me is my art studio. I do a little bit of drawing, pencil drawing, some painting, wood carvings, drafting. And my first load of logs I had delivered here and sawed out with my mill. That's what I built that with. So there's hardly anything at all that's been bought for that. Everything there has been sawed out on my mill. Like over here, this is all, some plywood and stuff on there, but that's all, that's one nice feature about that is 99% of it's I made, all the wood. So that's a fun part, that's a fun aspect of.
The windows kind of fascinate me, the triangular windows. And the view must be tremendous.
It is a pretty nice view. There used to be a lot of trees right there, a big gully and a lot of trees right there, which blocked this whole view. Then I had all those cleared out and filled in that big gully. I don't know if you remember that big hole that was there, and opened that right up to a beautiful view. And at first I was just going to have little square windows up there, but as I was building it, there was no way. I had to put triangles all the way around it. So that's what I did. And I'm so glad I did.
And you have a cupola on that
Yep.
too, finished.
Yep. And that actually has a fan and vent in it. And the only reason for that is because there isn't an opening window upstairs there for ventilation. So you just turn on the exhaust fan and that pulls all the air right out through the cupola.
Better than air conditioning.
Hey, it works really well. My house stays really cool. One good design about this is in the winter time, the sun is low, so the sun comes under the porch and through the windows. In the summertime, it's high, coming straight down, and it shades. Sun never comes in.
Did you consider that when you were building it? Was you
My house
thinking
in Columbia Falls, no, I didn't, but I realized it when I built my first house.
Right.
That it was such a great, because the summertime, the house is cool. Just no sunlight, beating in there, baking the place. But wintertime is perfect because it's kind of low and comes right straight through. And that's why I opened up the front of it, so the sun can come through the front and get as much sun as I can in the winter. And this place points exactly south. If you put a compass like on the edge of the countertop in there, it zeroes out at south. It's unbelievable, how perfectly it is. I don't know if they did it on purpose or it was an accident. But you see the cupola right there is south. I set that with a compass just for the heck of it for now. But
So the peaks of the four peaks, do those align with the compass? Like north,
perfectly
south, east?
south. Yep. And that building there, I took a lot of measurements.
Yeah.
Because I could notice it or whatever, but that's exactly 45 degrees to this.
It's amazing.
The way I had to do the measurements and ran strings all the way across there, then crossed them, and actually ran the string through the tree, like the crotch of the tree, to one corner of the platform to the other. So I made it exactly 45 degrees to the house. So this is a project that I worked on a few years ago, that I actually built a few years ago from wood that came from the forest fires out west. And this is the scrap wood from a ceiling that I put in for a customer. And so I took all the scraps and made patchwork, patched it all together, and made this blanket chest, or whatever you want to call it, I guess.
It's amazing.
And it's got the perfect squeak too.
It does.